welcome to this new episode of Continuum Gaming, and today we are going to have another Sailfish OS episode. And today we are going to talk about something that might help you in certain situations, which is called PatchManager. And PatchManager is something that can be used to change a couple of different things, like in general smaller settings and stuff like that never made it to any kind of GUI or something, but they can be changed in the background. And because Sailfish OS is of course a Linux-based system and not something like iOS where you are more or less in a golden cage and you can really only do what they offering you, in Sailfish OS those stuff can be changed. Problem with that is, of course, that you need to know what you are doing, in general at least. And because many people don't really know where to go to in the programs folders and stuff like that to change stuff, there has been PatchManager, which is going to help you to do exactly stuff like that. And PatchManager is going to give you options what to change, because other people already wrote patches for Sailfish OS, for instance, and you can just use more or less PatchManager to manage those and tell them a couple of different things, like if there are settings, you can use settings with PatchManager, and of course it's going to start them if you want to at the start of your logging into the Sailfish OS, for instance, and a couple of other options are there in that direction too. And as always, I'm going to show you everything on my mighty Sony Xperia 10 Mark III in this case. And of course, as always, I have my laptop here, which is this one, and my laptop is going to be used to show you everything on the big screen here by using a technology which is called Screencast. And Screencast is more or less going to take screenshots of my smartphone here, send it to an inbuilt web server somehow inbuilt in the phone here, and that one is going to be accessed by my browser here, so I can show you everything that is going on the screen of my small screen here, the smartphone of course, and you are going to be able to see that on the big screen then. And as you can see, there might be a little bit of a lag, so if I'm doing something on my smartphone, it might take 1 or 2 seconds depending, sometimes a little bit less, it depends on the connection and stuff like that, till you can see it here, but you can in the end see it. For our purposes here, I think that is pretty okay, and I'm going to go to, oh, that was exactly the wrong button, not that one please. I need that one, exactly. And in the end I'm going to show you everything in this big screen part here, and of course exactly the right button I pressed there. So I will have to refresh this, otherwise I'm no longer connected to my smartphone, because I got into the flight mode more or less, but now we are able to see everything again. Okay, so let's turn around. As always, if you want to install PatchManager, for instance, you will have to go to one of the stores, and the best one, or at least two in this case, it depends which one you have already installed. Both are fine in this case. I'm going to go to my store folder. I have 7 stores installed on this smartphone at the moment, and I'm going to go to Shum or to Storeman. It depends what you like better, it doesn't really matter, because both have the same version of PatchManager here. And if you are in here, just go to the upper left or the upper drop down menu there and type in PatchManager. There we go. And if I click on that, you can already see there are a couple of different options here, and one of them is PatchManager. And now have a look, because there are a couple of PatchManagers, so the first one and the third one here. And now have a look at the date which is next to it. So you want, of course, the newest version in general, depending on what you are using as a smartphone, of course, but with the with Sailfish OS on Sony Xperia 10 Mark III, you might want this one. So get the newest one. And if you click on that, as you can see, here it is. You can of course read everything here, and as you can see, there's one interesting thing here. So PatchManager is not going to change anything on your file system. So if you are going to deinstall PatchManager later on or something, you won't have the settings pushed into your system and it changed for forever or something. But the good thing is, it really is going to just do it on the fly. So if the files are going to be read by some kind of an app or something, they are going to put in this information for them, and like that. Not the real files are changed, but only the memory stuff is changed for that. I'm not even sure if that is not some kind of a hacking attempt in some kind of reason or way, but whatever. The good thing is, if you deinstall the patch later on or something, it will not stay there and destroy your smartphone after a while or something, but it really will do it on the fly. Just change what you wanted it to change, and if you deinstall it later on, everything is fine. Okay, so if you go down, you can read everything that is here. Just have a look at that if you are uncertain, and after that you just go to your top menu, and if you don't have it installed, like I'm of course, you would put in the resource here and then install the PatchManager for it. And after that, you are not going to have a new app or something in your screen, in your part here, but it's going to implement itself into your settings. So go to the settings, in this case here, and have a look. There is PatchManager. Close in the upper menu. I'm not really sure why it is there, because it's not really this first menu entry or something. I would put it probably by system or something, I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter. It's installed now here, and as you can see, I have 2 patches installed at the moment, and only the one that has this little shiny point there is active at the moment. So as you can see, there are a couple of different informations you already can see here, because for instance the red one does mean that this is by default not supported by your system. So it depends on which version of Sailfish OS is installed and stuff like that. And I will show you a couple of different things before we go on with that. But let's have a look what that means. So go to your upper menu here, go to the settings. And if you go in here, you have a couple of different options here, and I would recommend you to set a couple of them. So first of course, you want to have the notification at success, just to be able to see that a patch has really worked more or less, and you can use it now. And one other thing, of course, you can think about that or not, just activate it if you are rebooting your smartphone by default, or you can just reactivate the patches, going to the settings here again and going into PatchManager by yourself. I have it activated because, of course, sorry for that, because that is, of course, what I want to be installed on my smartphone, and so it's really helpful. And in the end, of course, you can, for instance, deactivate all the patches with a menu entry if you want to. It depends on what you really want to do. And one thing which you already saw more or less, so there was this red entry here. The red entry, you can see there, means that this patch is in general not meant for your version, but in many cases you can just use it, because for instance, if the patch was designed to work with, I say, 4.5.0.16 for instance, and you are on 19 now, it's probably still working. You can just try it out. If it's not working, then it's like that, and the patch author has to update it. But if it's still working, everything is fine. But you will only see that if you are going to have this one, so the version check at this point, and put it to no checks more or less. Don't use strict or something, just use the no check version, and like that you can really use it anyway. And otherwise, if you have the strict mode on, only patches will be able which are really meant for your version, and that might be a problem in some situations. Okay, so there are a couple of other things. I highly recommend you to activate the last part here, so convert the patches of the patches you have, more or less, so the different patches which are used in this, to the 64 version and the 32 version. This means more or less there were patches which are a little bit older, for instance, which were written for a 32-bit system, and in some situations they still work, and if you really want to use them, you really have to convert that. So in my case, for instance, the custom sim names I use here as a patch are, depending on this more or less. So be very careful, put that on, it's in general not a problem, and like that you really should use that. But let's have a look what we can do with this. For instance, my custom sim names is one of the most useful patches I have found, more or less. That one will help you to set own SIM names for your SIM card. So if you have a dual SIM system like I am using here, in general it would be a problem. So I'm going back to my settings here, and now you can go to your SIM card setting, and as you can see I can now name the SIM cards here, because otherwise it's hard to remember which one is which, especially if it's like, for me there's no other indication but SIM card 1 and SIM card 2 in this case. But the good thing is I can name them now, and as you can see I have the office and the private one, and so the office one and the private one are recognizable from each other. And this is very, very important for me, because I want to use two different numbers on my smartphone, of course, and if for instance I'm at work or something, I want to use my work SIM card, of course, and in the private space I'm using my private SIM card with my private telephone number and stuff like that, of course, too. And so I can now set them up, as you can see, just rename them here how you would like them to be, and like this. Very important for me, very helpful patch. And this patch was written for an earlier version of Sailfish OS. I think it's exactly the numbers I already told you, 4.5.0.16 it was created for, and on 19 I am now, so I had to use this patch up version. So for instance, that it's not going to check the version strictly, but just don't check them and let me do it, because nothing changed between those versions, depending, or at least nothing that is important for this, and so I can still use a patch and it's fine. And you can see I have a different one which is not active at the moment, so this one is just for showing you something. So in the end, if you have a look at this is this hinting of the app launcher here. So if you are clicking on your screen here, you can just see, hey, okay, there's one little row I can see there, which is going to be shown, and I have another option here. If I activate that, nothing is going to happen at the moment. So the patch has been activated, but you can read that you have to restart a couple of services. We will do that later. But if you click on that, you can see, sorry for my timeout of my laptop at the moment. But as you can see, I can now have a couple of different settings here too for some of the patches. And in this case, trying to hold the smartphone somewhere where it's not too much covering everything up. In this case, you can, for instance, go from one row, which is a standard, to 4 rows. And I'm just going to go with 2 or something. And as you can see, now it's activated. It's not going to work because we have to restart the services first. But as you can see, default is just hinting one of those. If I go to my services now and restart them once, of course, if you are restarting your smartphone, that's the same as that, but it would take longer. So I'm going to go and do it by myself. Go to the helper programs here and just restart the start. It's called Explorer on Windows desktop. I'm not sure what it's called here, but in the end, if I did that, and now, as you can see, the hint is showing us 2 of these rows, and this is the difference for this patch. As you can see, patches have been activated or deactivated, doesn't really matter in this case. So let's go to the settings again, go to our patch manager in this case. There we go. And I'm going to deactivate it again. And yeah, like this you can do a couple of different things. And of course, to find all these, you will have to search for, yeah, I know that, please go away, thank you. You will have to search for a couple of patches. You can do that in two different ways, more or less. You can go to the Open WordPress web store and go from there. Or you just use this little interface and go to the web catalog. If I go into that, you can see all the different options of patches, and you can see there are really many patches. So if you have something that you really need to get, I don't know, a couple of different things, just have a look in this list. Probably there might be one. For instance, I found custom sim names. As you can see, I already installed that. It's here, you can use this, and for instance for multi-sim devices, of course only then it's making any kind of sense, you can change the names with this. And yeah, in the end, if you want to install something, it's a little bit different than normally. In general, in the stores you would just swipe down, get a drop-down menu up there, but that's not working here, so go just down and have a look at the files. And if you then click on one of these files, there is this click to install. You're going to click on that, and then it's going to install the newest version, or the version you are clicking at least, and so you should be able to install the patch. And of course, as mentioned before, there are a couple of different ones. For instance, you could use, I don't know, what would you like to do? Different volume menu controls or something. For instance, you could use, in this case, with the volume media control, you can see here, you can use those buttons here to switch between songs too. So holding them would really just switch between the next song and the song before, and just clicking on them in a short while, you would just increase and decrease volume, of course. And so there are a couple of different things. For instance, you might want a different browser toolbar, for instance. Would you like to have it always visible, or should it blank out if you're scrolling and stuff like that? Pure black backgrounds. You might want to change, for instance, your keyboard in some kind of way. For instance, if you want to increase the button height or something, or decrease it. There are a lot of different patches available. Just search for what you are searching for, and it's just fun to see what is possible here and see what's going on here. For instance, this one, if you, for instance, want, you can always, or in many cases, there's a screenshot there where you can see everything already. And as you can see, this one adds this button, so you can, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why you would like to do that, but you can have now a space bar more or less in your telephone dial-up menu and stuff like that. So whatever you want to do here, have a look at the different patches. One might be for you. Yeah, and yeah, as mentioned before, there are a couple of different options available here. So for instance, you can of course get away with the settings here, go in there and have a couple of different options. Applet here, for instance, this one might be interesting for you too. So have a menu for all the patches to deactivate or activate them. And yeah, of course, if you just don't want to start them with your system but want to activate them hand by hand because you just want to have them in a couple of different occasions or something, then just try it out like this too. Everything like this should work. And I'm very sorry for today, because he is often going to the sleep mode more or less, but I think you already could see everything, and so hopefully this is going to help you with your Sailfish OS experience. In general, patches don't do much because they are not changing, as mentioned before, the system itself, but going to be implemented in between more or less. And if you are deinstalling the patch again, it should be working. If something isn't working, just restart your phone once. In some situations you really have to do that, and after that the patch should ably, if it's really available for your version. Yeah, and so I hope you had fun with all this, and more or less it helped you, hopefully, with a couple of different options you have in Sailfish OS, and maybe, for instance, Some of the patches many people like here are, for instance, in the keyboard, for instance, so having a larger or a smaller keyboard voice or something, or height or whatever, it might help you a lot with your feeling of the system. Hope you had fun with this episode. Hope you learned something, and if that was the case, please write it down in the commentary section, of course, because I just want to know if it's helping everybody, or at least somebody. And if you liked the episode, please give it a thumbs up, of course. And of course, if you didn't subscribe till now it's the time. It's free, it's down there, and it's helping the channel to grow. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Have a great time, have a great day, and see you around in the next episode. Bye. Bye.